Today's lesson is SS8.2 and we're talking about surface area of a right triangular prism. Okay, and right here we've got the notes that are in your visual notes as well. So what we're looking at today is finding the area of all the faces. So we went through nets and they pulled this one out like a net so you could see all the faces and that we need to find the area of. So in this case, a right triangular prism has 5 faces, 3 rectangles and 2 triangular bases. The 2 triangular bases are congruent, so these will always be the same. So here's a triangular prism in its net. The measurements are given to the nearest centimeters. The surface area of a triangular prism is the sum of the area of all its faces. So they broke it down into 5 sections here. So rectangle A has an area of 20 times 9. Okay. Now remember, area is length times width. They know this side's 20. They know this side is 9 based on when this was folded up into its actual shape. B is 20 times 15. C 20 times 9. Do you see where these are coming from? Okay, 9 is the side here. This is 20, and that's that rectangle facing that way. And D has an area of 1/2 times 15 times 5. So just recall, the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So here's your triangle right here. So we've got 1/2 times the base, which is 15, times the height, which is 5. Okay, and they repeated it because there's 2 of them. So they found all those, and then they're going to add them all up together. I'm going to show you a shorter way, obviously. You aren't going to have to write out all of this, but know that it's the area of all the faces, and the answer is 735 and it's centimeters squared because we're doing area. And since the bases are congruent, you can take the sum of the 3 rectangles plus 2 times the area of 1 triangle. Instead of doing this right here twice, you just take this number, sorry my screen's shifting, and multiply it by 2. Alright, that's it for that slide. Okay, so find the surface area of this prism. Draw a net. So they pulled it all apart. You're not going to have to do this because we've done the nets and we need to get moving on looking at the actual prism and knowing how to find out how to do this. But good visual here, pulling this apart so that you can understand where all these sides are coming from. I'm not going to go through this whole one. It's in your notes. It's pretty much the same as what they did on the last page. You've got 3 different rectangles and you've got 2 congruent triangles. They found all the measurements here and added them together. Okay, here's where we're trying to get. So we've got a prism. The dimensions given to 1 decimal place, all of these. Okay, and because it's given to 1 decimal place, that's what we're going to round to. That's kind of going to be our rule of thumb. So there's 4 faces to be, a wooden doorstep is a triangular prism. It's to be painted. The bottom rectangular face is covered with rubber, so underneath here, and will not be painted. So find the total surface area to be painted. So there's 4 faces, right? 1, 2, 3, and then the other side over here that need to be painted. The area of each triangular base is 1/2 base times height, so 1/2 of the base, which is 15.9, times the height, which is 5, given over here, which is 39.75. The slanted rectangular face, so that's this here, area is 8.9, that's this side here, right, because that's the same as up here, times 16.7. The vertical face, meaning the one up and down here, is 5 times 8.9. That one's easy to see. So the total area to be painted is the 2 triangular sides, right, so they multiply that by 2, plus the other 3, plus the other 2 sides. So we're not actually finding the total surface area of this, we're finding the total surface area of what needs to be painted. So be careful with these questions that you don't just dive in and find the total surface area. They're asking specific here. Okay, so they've done the math, and the surface to be painted is 272.6 centimeters. It was 6.3, but they rounded to the nearest 1 decimal place. Because it was a 3, the 6 stayed the same. And that would tell them how much they need to, that needs painting, which helps them decide on how much paint to buy. So you can see where this turns into a real world problem. Okay, so let's do one where we need to find the actual surface area of the entire shape. All right, so again, we've got 3 rectangles. We've got one here, we've got one here, and we've got one on the bottom. They've drawn the dotted lines, which helps you see it better, and the 2 congruent triangles. So let's start with the triangles. I'm just going to actually just draw a little triangle. Equals 1/2 base times height. You got to start committing these to memory now. Okay, so we're going to go 1/2 times the base, which is 4 right here, times the height, which is 3, and that's going to give us 1/2 of 12, which is 6, and we're going to multiply that by 2 because the triangles are congruent. So that gives us 12. Okay, I got my triangles. Now let's do the area of the slanted face, which is this one right here. So rectangle 1. We're going to go length times width, which is 11 times 5, which is 55. Rectangle 2, length times width. Let's do the vertical one right here. That's 11 times 3 for this side, which is 33. And rectangle 3, length times width again. And that's your bottom one here, 11 times 4, which is 44. Okay, all those are centimeters, obviously. When we add them all up, we get 144 centimeters squared. Don't forget, area is measured in centimeters squared. Okay, so 4 steps. Find the triangle, times by 2, then you have both triangles, find each rectangle, add them all together, and get your answer. Not super tough, just to make sure that you don't miss any parts. And again, on that last question, it was asking only for certain parts of the prism, so just be careful on your word problems and you should be good to go for your lesson on this part. So I broke this video into 2 parts, so make sure you watch the next one first before you actually do the assignment, and I'll see you there right away.